Today, I'm trying to convince you that LiFi, a technology I first coined in 2011 at TEDGlobal, can unlock the third industrial revolution. We have had the second industrial revolution, and energy and oil were the main drivers of that revolution. In the future, it will be data and data networks and the Internet of Things that will drive the future 21st century data-centric societies. The earlier we recognize that trend, the earlier we can identify barriers. And I see one main barrier is, do we have enough data pipes to transmit all the data that we need to let this economy grow? So, to show you how important that is, by 2020, what we have on the planet is 44 zettabytes of data generated. This is 44 with 21 zeros. To compare that, that would mean this is about as many bits on the planet as we have stars in the universe. And this data is not only generated by humans, as it is primarily now. This data will be generated by machines and by things. And I'll give you an example here. A turbine, electric turbine, generates per day 10 terabytes of data. So essentially about 10 hard drives full of data every day from a wind turbine. Now imagine you have your things at home, your toaster, your fridge, your oven, your car, your watch. Everything is generating data at that rate. And in fact, people say that by 2020 we will have 80 billion IoT devices, Internet of Things devices. This is about 10 times the whole world population. And the way these Internet of Things devices are connected to the internet is by wireless means. So the question is, do we have enough oil, hence means to transmit wireless data, or not? So while we generally don't know how much oil is on the planet, we know exactly how much bandwidth and how much resources are there for wireless communications. And the thing is that by 2020, we generate in total per month data that we send through mobile networks of 5 million years of high-definition video worth of content every month through mobile networks. That is the amount of data that we transmit all through these networks. And once again, the resource we use to do that is radio spectrum. So now let me show you what the radio spectrum is. The radio spectrum is part of the electromagnetic spectrum. The electromagnetic spectrum is made up of all sorts of things, including radio waves. It has visible light, it has infrared, X-rays, gamma rays. Some of these rays are pretty dangerous. So now if we look at the part that we use for communications is this part of the spectrum. And now the question is, how much of that spectrum is already occupied? How much free resources we have? This is exactly the amount of spectrum in that domain. Now if you look at the radio frequency map of the United States, what you notice is that it's pretty full. So this is the entire resource, the entire oil reserve for the third industrial revolution, pretty much occupied. And even some of the frequency bands are already occupied twice. So some people use it at night, some at daytime, and that there's not much to gain there. So it's a problem. So how do we solve that problem? How do we ensure that the engine that drives the next industrial revolution works? The only way is to step back out of the box and think again. Look at the entire electromagnetic spectrum. There's more, and there's even healthy parts of it, like the visible light spectrum that's generated life on the planet. So what about that? So what about now having recognized that the radio spectrum is fully occupied? It's not a lot to gain there. Then we have this rainbow stripe that appears to be tiny. And it appears to be tiny because we plot on a log scale, on a logarithmic scale. If we were to plot that on a linear scale, the situation would be entirely different. The The radio spectrum and the visible light spectrum are, in a comparison scale, 1,000 times different in their sizes. So it's like the size of the Earth and the size of the Sun. So the visible light spectrum is 1,000 times larger than the entire radio spectrum. It's a big oil well that is yet unused for data communication. So why do we not explore that for data communication? Why don't we do that? So how can we do it? So the principle is that we take a new development that we've seen for the last 15 years, is taking light-emitting diodes, LEDs, that you see here depicted. And we use the light that these the diodes emit to encode data. So to illustrate how it works, what we have is, on the left-hand side, a computer, any source that produces data, and you have a cable that is connected to the light source. There's a microchip integrated into the box that drives the LED, and then you have a receiver on the other end, and that decodes the changes of the brightness and then feeds it back into the receiver, and then you have a wireless link. So the principle is like this. You have some digital content, you send the bits, the black and the yellow elements, through the light bulb, it flashes, and it turns on when it's transmitting a logical 1, and it turns off when it's 0. That's a simple way of transmitting data. But obviously we have developed more sophisticated techniques, and what we've shown is with advanced LEDs, laser LEDs, we can transmit up to 100 gigabit per second. And this is 15 times faster than the fastest Wi-Fi. So this is the theory. What I'm going to do now is I'm trying to demonstrate it to you in real life. So what I have here is an off-the-shelf LED lamp and an off-the-shelf LED downlighter, unmodified, just bought off the shelf. I don't have an internet connection here. That's why I brought a little server with me. This is a server here, this box, that has at the moment just a few videos stored. And that server is connected via this white cable to that LiFi router. You know Wi-Fi routers, this is a LiFi router, and that LiFi router connects to the LED lamp with a cable, and it provides the bright light, but it also delivers access to the server here. So my question now is, can I access this server here from that end there? At this end, what I have here is a LiFi dongle. Those of you 15 years ago who started to see Wi-Fi coming to development, we had Wi-Fi dongles about this size. This now is a LiFi dongle. It has the blue element here is the receiver, and the other part here is an LED transmitting in the infrared spectrum back to the light, to the LiFi router. And that is the world's first and smallest LiFi dongle that is being developed. So what I will do now is, first of all, I will show you the access to the server there, which has that IP address there. It is at the moment not possible, as you see. I can press reload, doesn't access. So I turn that USB dongle now into a USB extension. It's connected to the USB port of that tablet computer. And what I'm going to hopefully show you is sorry, I need to unplug that. So what I'm going to show you is a connection here, a driver that's called LiFi that I'm connecting to now. And now I have access to the server. And I can show you this by reloading that site. And this is now the server that is in that little box. So these are the videos I've stored on that server. Now let me just take one. This video is now transmitted from that off-the-shelf LED lamp to that dongle here. So even if I walk through it, the video is still transmitted and received. It's transmitted and received at a very fast speed. So Once again, I stop that. I take it out and try to access the server now. Doesn't work. I put it in again. I connect it in the system here. Now it's connected. I can reload. Do this. So we have again the server that streams these videos. Again, this is a video stored on the server. We've downloaded and it's transmitted via this light. So with that, I've shown you the transmission of data to the laptop at very high speeds. So this is one light source that we have. Now what is if we look around even here, how many light sources do we have? So we have cities full of light sources. If we replace these light sources by LED lights, we save a lot of energy, a lot of CO2 emissions would be reduced or would be saved. And what we can form out of the existing infrastructure, we can form the interlight net. So a new internet that is based on purely light sources. I've mentioned at the beginning barriers, and one barrier is the availability of resources. But remember, we want to connect 80 billion IoT devices. There's another barrier in radio communications that I'm going to explain in a minute. I can only explain it by going back to the history of cellular communications, so the cellular communications that we have today. If we go back 20 years, we had a second generation of cellular communications, which was GSM. It's a mobile phone for mobile telephony. And we had radio masts sort of sent and spread around countries to cover the area. And a radio mast in 2G was covering about 35 kilometers in cell radius. But then we moved on to go to the third generation. So we went from mobile telephony to mobile internet or mobile multimedia. So with multimedia, we had higher data rates, so different services come to play, and the cell radius of 3G shrunk to about 5 kilometers. Now we have at the moment 4G deployed, and with 4G we get very high data rates on the megabits per second. But the downside is, in order to do that, we need many radio masts, and the radius a 4G cell covers is about 200 meters. And the industry is at the moment developing the fifth generation, 5G, and guess what? The radius goes down to roughly about 20 meters. So every 20 meters you need a radio mast. That's economically a challenge, and secondly, there's also a physical limitation because you can't have very small radio cells because you would have interference. These cells would interfere with each other, but not so light. With light, you can have lenses, you can confine the illumination to a very defined space, like I'm here at the red spot. This is where I'm covered by one light covering 1 to 10 square meters. So we can have a very dense network of light sources, like shown here on that picture, that would form a fully networked LiFi system in a hospital, in an office, in an airport, in a home, and so on. And the data rate we can get through these lights is 1 gigabit per second. We can achieve a data rate of 1 gigabit per second covering 1 square meter. So we could have 10 devices, IoT devices, in that 1 square meter of 100 megabit. 100 megabit today it's considered as very fast broadband. So you could have that at every single sort of 1 square meter point, and that could really unlock what is the Internet of Things. And it could unlock the huge potential in applications that's stemming from it. the importance is that we have a transition of an industry. At the moment, we have two independent players in that arena. One is the lighting industry, and one is the wireless communications industry. The lighting industry has a big problem at the moment because LED lights last for 20 and 30 years. That means that the business models change. They don't sell these lights as they did. They change from a volume sales into a service business model where the theme is light as a service. Like a mobile phone delivers mobile telephony, a mobile phone delivers thousands of services. So in the future, a light in the ceiling will have an operating system. It will deliver hundreds of services for smart control of your environment, for saving energy, for doing all the nice energy-saving smart control applications in your private homes, in your offices, in your industrial environments. And this is, again, enabled by the Interlight Net. So what it means is that the lighting industry, by that disruptive element, LiFi, will be able to provide LiFi routers, so they would operate in the space that is traditionally owned by the wireless communications industry. They can expand. The wireless communications industry, as again, has an oil reserve of a very limited space, and they, in order to expand into the IoT, into 5G, need more resources. So automatically, they need to use the resources that are available, freely available, in the visible light domain. So they will operate in the lighting domain. So you will have a wireless operator that can also sell light bulbs. And that is an entirely disruption of two industries, and it forms a new super industry, if you want, that is at the heart of the third industrial revolution, creating the Internet of Things that we need in order to thrive our businesses. That is the way we see it. So the applications that can be delivered are huge. Street lamps, I told you, 20-meter intersight distance in 5G. Why don't you use the street lamps as your 5G and 6G network? Cars have LED headlights, front lights. The traffic lights are LED. Cars can communicate. You can enable the autonomous car enabled by lights that communicate and help make a secure car in transport systems. We have underwater vehicles that scan the seabed. We can't use radio, but you can use light to transmit data from these devices. Divers at the moment are very vulnerable because they don't have any safety mechanisms, but they can use their torchlight to communicate with each other and make more secure underwater missions. The Internet of Things, you look at all your devices at home. All of these devices have an LED kind of lamp, and this lamp can deliver up to 100 megabit and even up to 1 gigabit per second, enabling entire new business models. Even wearables we have now, we have the smart watch, we have smart wearables now inside, even outside, even sometimes inside, to be able to measure all vital body data. We have an aging society, we need to know what's the status of our body. And an LED can deliver that data to the next light fixture in the ceiling, enabling new ways of patient monitoring. Lights are very, as I said, could cover a very localized area of 1 square meter up to 10 square meters, so we can build indoor navigation systems, so for asset tracking, for logistics, and for many more applications. We have shopping windows with LED lights, so you can have not only the access to the shop via the door, but you can have the access via coupons that are transmitted via the lights in the shopping window. We have stadia. There's thousands of people there, and there's not enough radio spectrum to deliver all the services people in that crowded spaces require, but you have lots of lights and 1,000 times more bandwidth in a light spectrum. Intrinsically safe environments like petrochemical plants, oil platforms, suffer from the fact that you can't use radio because radio can spark an explosion. In the Industry 4.0, which is another big theme that is developing through our societies, where there's lots of robots and lots of automation, and it requires data sensing, it requires delivery of data, and this can be done via the lights. We also have shown that solar panels can be used, repurposed, as high-speed data receivers. So now we even have the issue that we can solve the rural divide by delivering the internet to remote areas via laser beam at a close-by hilltop or street lamp. And then, since light doesn't go through walls, we have a higher means of creating security and secure communications. So LiFi can combine the security we know from wired communication and combine it with the advantages of mobile connectivity and mobile communications. And these are only a few applications that where we see the impact of LiFi could be seen. I think with that I would like to close my talk, and I thank you for your attention, and let us now light up the future third industrial revolution. Thank you.